The words sliced through the warm, yeasted air of the bakery, sharper than any bread knife. "What is this bucket of slime?" Kevin asked, his voice dripping with a disgust that felt profoundly out of place amidst the comforting scents of cinnamon and baked bread. He pointed a manicured finger at the stainless steel pail Arthur Vance was cradling like a newborn. Arthur, his hands and apron dusted with the flour of 50 years, looked down at the bubbling, living sourdough starter, the very soul of Vance's hearth, a legacy passed down through 3 generations. "It's the starter, Kevin, the mother dough. It's everything," he stammered, his heart a cold stone in his chest. Kevin, the fresh-faced, MBA-wielding grandson of the original owner, scoffed. "It's unhygienic and inefficient, Arthur. We're in the 21st century. We'll use commercial yeast packets. It's predictable, standardized." Before Arthur could protest, Kevin snatched the pail, marched to the back door, and upturned it into the dumpster. The soft plop of the starter hitting a pile of trash echoed louder than a gunshot in the stunned silence of the kitchen. "Your services are no longer required," Kevin said, not even looking at him. "We're modernizing." For half a century, Arthur's world had been defined by the rhythm of the bakery. It wasn't a job, it was a calling. He arrived before the sun, his hands knowing the feel of the dough in a way that was more instinct than science. He knew by the scent in the air if the humidity would affect the proofing times. The sourdough starter, affectionately named Eleanor after his late wife, was the heart of it all. It was a living organism he had fed and nurtured daily, a direct link to the bakery's founder, Kevin's own grandfather, who had entrusted it to him. The whole neighborhood in Oakwood, Cleveland, knew the distinct tangy flavor of Arthur's rye, the chewy crust of his country loaf. People didn't just buy bread. They bought a piece of their own history, of consistency in a changing world. To have that history, his life's work, dismissed and discarded as slime by a boy who saw tradition as a liability on a spreadsheet was a wound deeper than any physical blow. The respect he had commanded, the quiet dignity of his craft was gone, thrown out with the trash. Days bled into weeks. Arthur felt like a ghost, haunting his own life. He'd wake at 4 a.m. out of habit, the smell of phantom bread filling his small home, only to be crushed by the reality of his empty hands. He'd walk past Vance's hearth, now rebranded as Hearth Breads & Co., and see the perfectly uniform, lifeless loaves in the window. They looked right, but he knew they would taste of nothing but chemicals and shortcuts. He saw the old regulars try the new bread, their faces a mixture of disappointment and polite resignation. The soul was gone. Inside, Kevin was running a tight ship. He cut costs, optimized supply chains, and tracked every metric. But sales were plummeting. The new bread lacked character, and the community felt the loss. Kevin, frustrated, doubled down on his modern methods, blaming the old customer base for being resistant to change. He saw Arthur on the street once and looked away, his jaw tight with a mixture of guilt and defiance. For Arthur, each day was a new lesson in invisibility. He was a master without a craft, a man whose accumulated wisdom had been deemed worthless. It was a potential jackpot, a contract that could single-handedly save the failing business. Kevin eagerly accepted, promising the organizers the best rye in Cleveland. There was only one problem. The authentic recipe, the one that had made his grandfather's bakery a landmark, was intricately tied to the unique flavor profile of the sourdough starter he had thrown in a dumpster. His attempts to replicate it with commercial yeast were a disaster, producing dense, flavorless bricks. Panic began to set in as the deadline loomed, threatening not just a failed contract, but public humiliation and financial ruin. Swallowing his pride, a visibly shaken Kevin appeared on Arthur's doorstep late one evening. He explained the situation, his voice cracking. "I can't do it," he admitted.
the arrogance finally stripped away. The organizers specifically mentioned the taste of my grandfather's rye. It's your bread they want. Arthur listened in silence, his heart a battlefield of conflicting emotions. A bitter part of him wanted to see the boy fail, to let him drown in the consequences of his own hubris, but a deeper, more powerful force stirred within him. The love for his craft. The thought of the festival, a celebration of the city's heritage, being sullied by inferior bread was an offense to his very being. He looked at Kevin's desperate face and saw not an enemy, but a foolish young man who had mistaken knowledge for wisdom. He nodded slowly. "I kept a piece of her," he said quietly, walking to his own refrigerator. A craftsman never throws away his best tool. He pulled out a small jar containing a bit of the original starter, alive and bubbling. "But we work my way. No spreadsheets, no timers. Just this," he said, tapping his heart, and these holding up his flour-dusted hands. The bakery, which had felt cold and sterile, came alive that night. Arthur moved with the grace and certainty of a master returning to his kingdom.
The air filled with the earthy, sweet scent of the reviving starter. He didn't measure ingredients with cups and spoons, but with the weight and feel in his palms. He taught Kevin how to listen to the dough, to hear the soft sighs as the gluten developed, to feel the life within it. For 24 hours straight, they worked. It wasn't a silent, vengeful display. It was a transfer of legacy. Arthur explained every step, the why behind every fold and rest. The reverse humiliation wasn't in gloating words. It was in the undeniable, awe-inspiring demonstration of mastery. As the final loaves came out of the oven, their crusts a deep, crackling mahogany, and their aroma filling every corner of the block, Kevin watched, utterly humbled. He had tried to replace a lifetime of dedication with a business degree, and the evidence of his folly was cooling on the racks before him. The bread was a sensation at the festival. The organizers were ecstatic, and orders poured into the bakery. Standing in the back, watching customers bite into a slice and close their eyes with nostalgic delight, Kevin turned to Arthur. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I wasn't just wrong about the starter. I was wrong about everything. About you." Arthur simply placed a heavy hand on the young man's shoulder. "Respect the craft, son. It holds the memories." From that day on, the sign outside changed back to Vance's Hearth. Kevin became Arthur's apprentice, learning not just how to bake, but how to honor the slow, patient wisdom that time alone can bestow. This story reminds us that true value isn't always found in what is new and fast, but in the deep-rooted wisdom and experience that stands the test of time. It's a testament to the idea that some things, like a master's touch, can never be made obsolete. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel for more tales of human dignity and resilience. Thank you for listening, and take care.